Today on Homeworthy, we're exploring the inspiring homes of authors around the world. First, we'll visit the breathtaking Upper East Side townhouse of the remarkable Suzy Welch. Next, author, public speaker, and advocate Jodie Patterson invites us into her stunning home, nestled in the serene landscape of upstate New York. Finally, we'll tour the idyllic English home of content creator and author Sarah Laming. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Suzy Welch. Welcome to my house on the Upper East Side of New York. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Suzy Welch, and this is Pierre. And welcome to my home on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I'm excited to show you around. I am a professor of management practice at NYU Stern School of Business, where I also teach a class called Becoming You, Crafting the Authentic Life You Want and Need. I'm a New York Times bestselling author and the inventor of the 10-10-10 decision-making system. Also, importantly, I'm the mother of 4 and the grandmother of 1 and a dog mom. This is Pierre, as I said, but I have 2 other dogs, Audrey and Sir. So this house is so special to me. I'm actually the daughter of an architect, and I grew up my whole life fascinated with houses because my parents were fascinated with houses. And this house was built in 1899, like every other house pretty much in that era on the Upper East Side of New York. In the 70s, this house was combined with the house next door, making it a double townhouse. And then the previous owners, the famous and renowned movie producer Mike Nichols and his wife Diane Sawyer, did an amazing thing to this house. They took out the second floor, making the first floor have this sort of double story, which is sort of what's so spectacular about it. And they did it to let light in, and it really floods the house with light, which is unusual with some of these townhouses. So when I saw it, I saw that light pouring in, and that backyard. It has a backyard in New York City, and if you're a person with dogs, you get why that's so great. And I fell madly in love with it the minute I saw it. Now, it needed work, but I kind of love that. My whole family is filled with artists, and for me, my canvas is home. So I just took this project on knowing that I was going to be working with Elizabeth Lawrence from Bunny Williams and that we would have a blast. We had a name for it, actually, Suzy's Bohemian Getaway, and that's what we wanted to call it. We're actually in what's the parlor. In these homes, the parlor had a lot of uses that we don't have anymore. Like, we don't have guests wait here until they can be formally introduced. So when we thought about this space, originally the opening to it was much smaller, and I wanted it to be part of the foyer. I wanted this feeling of breathability in the beginning of the house, that you would come in and you would immediately feel welcomed, and that meant we had to open this space up a little bit. And, you know, we don't really have any purpose for this room except for that people sometimes like to hang out in it. The dogs love it. I mean, Pierre really loves this chair, okay? And this chair actually has come with me from house to house to house to house. It's beautiful with the original fabric from the 17th century, and it's from France. I love it. But by contrast, in this room, I also have this magnificent piece of pottery from one of the great living ceramicists of our era. And actually, that's what I like. I like the contrast. And this room was really just an opportunity for me to say, you're about to enter this house where there's a lot of fun stuff going on, where you have 17th century chairs and very modern pottery, and it's all mixed up, and I just want people to sort of immediately feel drawn into this kind of like this adventure, the adventure of the house. So in this room, I have to be honest with you, the dogs are the biggest users of this room, but it does operate as part of the foyer of the house, because the house, like so many townhouses, has a very narrow entrance. And I didn't want that feeling. I wanted that immediate feeling of arrival. So this room is sort of just part of the foyer. I will say there's one very special painting to me in this room. And I love portraits of women from all different eras. I'm fascinated by them. And actually, if I had my druthers, perhaps my whole house would just be filled with portraits, but that might get a little creepy. But one of the things I love the most about this painting is when I was speaking to the dealer and I was interested in acquiring it, I said, what's going on with this painting? And he said, well, actually, this painting was painted of this woman after she passed away. So this is a posthumous painting, a portrait that was not unusual. It's Dutch in origin. And I said, what does the lemon represent? And I thought I was going to get some kind of great philosophical thing. And he said, bitterness. And I thought, well, that's unusual and kind of weird. And so I promptly bought it. But you know, the interesting thing about it is I put it right next to two watercolors, actually sort of black ink, that were drawn by my children, by one of my children, and I framed them up. But and they were teenagers when they made them. They're actually, all of my children are wonderful artists, and they made this one when they're young, and I actually sort of love that they were experimenting with painting when they were very young, and so these are precious to me in a totally different way. I love the explosion of color and energy of this particular painting. It's a young Brooklyn artist, and I think that who's not yet established, and it's exciting to be part of an artist who's trying to establish an oeuvre and trying to establish followers, bring her into my collection, and just the energy and the dynamism and the sunniness. And so many paintings are somber, and I understand that, and I love the poignancy of many paintings. But I also wanted, when people walked into this house, to look over at that painting and go, "Oh, this is a happy house," and that it was why it has this very prominent place in the house. One of the great lessons that I've learned from Elizabeth Lawrence at Bunny Williams is just about the importance of layering, that a room really needs to be layered, that it's not done until it's layered. And so having the neutral palette of a couch immediately means you need to layer it with this, like this is a beautiful antique tapestry that's just thrown over the back of it. And then this sort of kaleidoscope explosion of different pillows with different kinds of feelings to them, some quite formal, some more casual. Again, the invitation is to come sit down, you know, that this is not just a set piece, that you should hang out in this room and you should take a look at all of the art and even just ask questions about the art. For instance, this print, this drawing, I saw it on Live Auctioneers. I love the auctions. I was for a while quite addicted to the auctions, and my children had to do an intervention, and I've got it under control now. But I love them for the surprise of them, and I thought it was like $25, and I got it on an auction, and I just love it. I love its energy next to this very serious painting of the woman with bitterness. And then actually, this small print was something that I picked up in Venice when I just graduated from college. I went to Venice for a vacation I remember we stayed at a place where, it was like $2 a night, but there was an art fair, and an artist had this out in the street, and I bought it, and every time I look at it, I remember that when I was 21 years old, I was scrounging around looking for art that I could enter emotionally. And that's actually the judge I have for every piece of art that I think about buying, which is that, do I enter it emotionally? Do I have an emotional connection with it? Does it touch me? Does it move me? Does it make me think? I'm not interested generally in who painted it or how expensive it is, because I will buy a painting for $10 if it moves me. And I want to enter it emotionally in some way. And I think that is why I love art, because of its transformative power, like a poem. This is a needlepoint, and I think, I love the different shape of the frame. I think it's playful, but I also love this moment in this house of kind of a different view of the way courting used to occur. And it's all part of just a mix. I entered it emotionally, and so it went up on my wall. Perhaps the most important thing in this room, though, is the rug. And it was really important to me that this rug be right as you enter the house, because this was the rug that was in my late husband Jack's office. And he loved this rug. We chose it together. He's always around. He's always with me. And even though he is has passed away, the fact that you come in, and at least for me, I know he's right here, and I spent many hours with him writing books in his office, and this rug was one that we both loved for its texture and its feeling, and it actually sort of reads as a neutral, which is unusual for me to have a neutral, but it's important that it was right at the beginning of the house, that something that was really, really evocative of Jack would be right there. The table was something Jack loved. He was, he ran a company with a lot of manufacturing, and so he loved this sort of motif of the tools and the screws there. And this was one of his favorites. And this big chest we got when we were traveling. We actually got it in China. A lot of things we picked up in our travels, always to remember our travels. And this was a piece that we picked up and we schlepped it home, and it was not easy, but it was worth it, because that's, the beauty of it is each piece has meaning to you. And it's very, very important for me not to have set pieces or stagey pieces in the house, that I want everything to have some kind of emotional content in it for me. Our organizing principle when we used to travel together, when my husband was still living, was we would hit a city and we would say, where are the young artists? Where are the young artists? We would do it everywhere we went. It was our organizing principle for travel, and we just loved finding emerging artists. It was exciting for us to meet the artists. So many of the pieces in this house, although not all of them, because I really like older art. I love art from the 17th century in particular, and I love mixing it with new artists. But it was always fun to blow into a city, either abroad or in the United States, and just start our tour of the galleries. And people always used to say, you went to what neighborhood? And we would say, well, that's where the artists were. And it was fun, and we met many great people that way. I said that everything sort of has to have emotional content, and I would say that everything here, this is a perfect example of it. I went through a period where I just loved amber. I still love amber. Like, I love a dining room table set with amber, and I saw this lamp, and I kind of fell in love with it through a store window in New York City. And then I went back and it wasn't there, and I kind of got frantic, and I went in, and the owner of the store said, oh, actually it's in back and we're fixing it, and I carried it home like it was a baby. Okay, so I mean, I have a relationship with objects, obviously. This was something I got on auction, but it's like 500 AD kind of thing. And I thought, people have always loved their dogs. I am in a long line of people who are obsessed with their dogs, and I like to think that the person who made this also had their life completely controlled by their dogs, as I do. This was a gift from my son to me for my birthday. He's 35 now and a father, and this was his Christmas gift to me when he was 14 years old, and I've carried it with me from house to house to house, thinking how sweet it was for him to choose this for me. And this is a recent painting that I just purchased. It's that moment where Noah sends the dove out from the ark to see if there's land anywhere. And I love this moment of hope. I love this moment of rebirth. I love this moment of seeking the future. All of us have times in our lives where there's deep change. And I went through that when I lost my husband, and I had to think about how I was going to think about the future. And I saw this painting right in that period. And I thought, oh, I love this gesture of him letting the dove go. The dove does come back and say, there is land, there is a future. And we do go on. And this painting is small, but it represents that for me. And I put it right here in the foyer. I look at it, I mean, honestly, I look at it every day. All right, so going on down this way, I actually have an amazing story about this incredible Korean antique objet. I guess it's sort of a vase. There actually was a pair of them. And probably 15 or 20 years ago, when we were moving into our home in Palm Beach, the movers were moving these vases in. They're precious. And one of the movers, God bless him, dropped one of the vases, and it shattered. I'm not kidding. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. And I just stood over it, and I thought, well, this is a moment where I prove if I'm a good person or a bad person. And the mover was devastated. He was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I simply said, we all make mistakes. I still want to pat myself on the back for that one. I mean, I was like absolutely so mad. I can't tell you. I mean, I was like, oh, how could you? But I thought, like, he hates himself. I'm not going to pile on. And actually, Bunny said to me, we can fix that. And I said, it's in tiny little shards. And she said, there's a place. And they swept it up, and it came back completely repaired. And in fact, I'm looking at it to see if this is the one. This is the one. This was because I had the other one in another place, and this is the one. It was completely rebuilt after being a jillion pieces. And you know, I kind of love the metaphor of that. I mean, this was in shattered pieces on the floor, and it was re-glued into one glorious piece. It was restored, and I love it even more for that. I love it even more. So the wallpaper was an interesting thing. When we came in, there was very tired wallpaper. I mean, really old wallpaper. And we knew we wanted something that was very neutral for all of my art. And it was going to go from the first floor all the way up to the fourth floor. And so we were very, very particular about it. And the beauty of this is it kind of looks like it's hand painted, but it's textured. And I love it. I love it as a neutral. I think it kind of reads as almost a kind of a beige, but it also has that green feeling of life in it. And it's a beautiful backdrop for the paintings all the way up the stairs. And now for the big of the house. I mean, it was an for me the first time I saw it. This is our living room, family room, everything room. And the thing that makes it very different from most townhomes is that when Mike Nichols and Diane Sawyer owned this house, they did this extraordinary thing where they took out the floor above, making it 2 stories and creating this incredible space that just feels so filled with light, and allowed me to do this wacky thing and hang all my art in the same room, basically. And it opens up into the backyard, making this, like, you know, it's almost like suburban living with this indoor-outdoor feel to it. Now, if they had not done that, this would have been like a family room, and the room next door would have been the kitchen. And instead, what we ended up having, because we took the ceiling, we said, yay, let's leave the ceiling out. Although it was suggested to me by the architects, you know, do you want to restore it? Because it's a lot of living space. I mean, when you take the ceiling out, we took out like 1,200 feet of living space, which is in New York, something not to trifle with. And I said, no, I love this feeling. Let me live with it for a while. I have to say, from all the mistakes I've made in decorating many, many homes, the greatest line is let me live with it for a while. So I lived with it, and I thought, you know what? I love this feeling. I lose a formal living room and a formal dining room. But you know, it's 2024, and I don't need a formal living room and a formal dining room with the way I live. And it doesn't mean I don't entertain, because I entertain all the time, but I like this casual feeling that this gives the house. And so we have this light pouring in all the time. It's kind of, it kind of gives the house its modernism and its sunny optimism, and I love that about it. So the chandelier for this room was a big deal because of the size of the room and because how the chandelier is seen from the second floor. We agreed that the chandelier had to be kind of fantastic. And I wanted something mid-century because I thought it would be a funky mix. And also I wanted a lot of light, a funky mix with all the art and this very bohemian feeling. So Elizabeth and I, literally, we were obsessed. We looked everywhere. We looked at auctions. We looked at dealers. We went to art fairs, and we were always looking for a chandelier. And I said to her, no matter what, this chandelier has to be up and installed by this date in February, because I'm throwing a big formal dinner party for a friend who was turning 60, and we were going to throw it up on the mezzanine. In fact, I took out all the furniture from the mezzanine, and we put a really, really long table in for a spectacular black tie 60th birthday party for this friend. And I thought, you know, the whole view for everybody all night long is going to be the chandelier in this room and the chandelier in the room next door. And she said, okay, fine. And we were like hunting like mad. So we found this spectacular chandelier, and they came to hang it about a week before the dinner party. I mean, we were cutting it very close because the chandelier had to come from Europe, and we were cutting it very, very close. And so to put this chandelier up, obviously, it required this gigantic apparatus with scaffolding, and I was so excited it was going up. And there was like an army of people here, because to hang the chandelier was, I did not realize how complicated it was going to be. And there was this gigantic structure built in the middle of this room to hang it. And I was in the parlor as this was going on, and I was literally on the phone when suddenly there was, well, I can only say it sounded like a car wreck. It sounded like there was a car wreck in this room, because bolt failed and the chandelier came crashing to the ground. And if you can imagine, I mean, this is a big chandelier, what it sounded like, well, it sounded like that. I mean, it sounded like 2 cars had collided in my living room. And then there was this incredible silence. silence in the house. And I hung up the phone and I stepped out and I said, "Is everybody okay?" And then everybody answered back, "I'm okay, I'm okay." I said again, "Is anybody hurt?" And the answer was, "Nobody is hurt." And then I said, "How are the dogs?" Because I thought people might be speaking for themselves, but who were speaking for the dogs? And somebody said, "The dogs are fine." And I came out, and all of us were looking at each other. The guy who was hanging it was crying. He was in tears. And he said, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And I said, "Okay, these things happen." Or, I mean, I was just so overwhelmed with gratitude and relief that nobody was hurt, because somebody could have really been hurt. And so I called Elizabeth and I said, "You will not believe it." She said, "I've already been called," because by that time the contractor had already called her. And I said, "What are we going to do about this for the party?" And she said, "There's going to be a chandelier hanging there." And I don't know how she did it. She found a dealer in Texas who had this chandelier. We agreed it was fantastic, and we were able to get it up and hung for the party. But nobody was happier about it being hung for the party than I. And and also at the party, it was sort of a fantastic story. So there it is, and it was look, you love your house and you want it to look a certain way, but some things come first, like the fact that nobody got clobbered by this falling chandelier. So this art collection is truly comes from, I mean, every single painting has a story, and it has come over probably 25 years now of collecting all this art. Every single painting spoke to me in some way. They've been in different houses. I bought them at different periods of my life, and I remember why I bought them. I just bought these two amazing 17th century carved angels this summer, actually, because I felt like that space needed something. But then I also saw them and I thought, these are so unique and so profound and charming at the same time, and I felt like they needed to be in my house, and so I got them. But I would say that each painting says something to me. This is an incredible painting by a German abstract expressionist who painted in the 60s. I love the energy of it. When I first saw it, I remember saying, I would never have that in my home. I mean, that's what I said when I saw it. And I got it with Jack, and we both sort of had a love-hate relationship with it for a little while, and it's really grown on me. But I don't know if I would ever have it just as a single painting. It works for me because it's got the sort of charming daisies next to it, and this sort of beautiful Dutch still life on the other side of it, and this magnificent 60s portrait. And each one of these paintings sort of came into my life at a different time, but all entered through my heart, if you will. Some of them were gifts that to me or from me to Jack, and I look at them and I feel again like, if my life was a mosaic, each one of these paintings would be a tile in it. And I love them all for different reasons. I would say that I gave him this for when we got married. It's a Matisse. I gave that to him. So that was very special, a gift, but in the other direction. I will say that, oh my gosh, I could really tell you something about every painting, but like actually over here, this is a portrait that my daughter Eve took when she was in high school of one of her good friends, and I think it's a magnificent, first of all, it's a memory of Eve beginning as an artist. She's now an artist, professional artist now, but this is when she was beginning to experiment with becoming an artist. And then my son made this print when he was in high school. Be careful when you fight the monster, lest you become one. And he made that image, and I love it. Was a harbinger for the wonderful man that he was to become. This is a painting that I got on auction of the Isle of Skye. It has absolutely nothing special about it. It was probably really inexpensive. I got it on auction, and I just love the feeling. I love the feeling of openness. And the artist was probably an amateur, and he was experimenting, or she was experimenting with color and perspective, and that's how it all sort of came together. I mean, this is an artist that Jack and I found when we were in Argentina, a female artist who was experimenting with collage, and I have brought it from home to home to home. I think it's very unique. Why do I love it? It's hard to put words around. I mean, there are some paintings that I can explain very specifically why I love. So there's a painting over that door of a young girl. She's probably, in my mind, she's around 10 or 11. And she's with her Dalmatian. So I have a large collection of paintings of women with their dogs, and this one does not fit with the collection because it's too large. So I hung it here, but I think I'm glad it's here because of all that large collection, this is probably my favorite. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think that it's a sort of gothic, and I kind of like how weird it is. But I mostly love the expression on her face and her companionship with her dog. And dogs have played an enormous role in my life. One of the earliest pictures we have of me as a child is of me holding a dog when I was 3 years old. I come from a dog family. My dogs are my companions. And I actually had a Dalmatian, and I rescued her. She was a hospice dog, and that we knew she had cancer when I rescued her, and I was just going to have Miley see the end of her life out with me. And it was a precious time to be with this dog, and she was not a great dog. Dalmatians are tough, and she was mad, and she was not very comfortable, but it taught me a lot about loving dogs when they're sick. And it was a journey for me also. And so I got this painting right after I found out that Miley was a Dalmatian, because she was kind of a mutt Dalmatian, and I just got her DNA done, and I had gotten her from a shelter that had a hospice dog program. And I found out, and I thought, how funny that I had this painting, and then this girl who kind of, I guess she reminds me of me and my childhood and how much I came into my own with the dog by my side. I imagine that she's on Nantucket, even though she probably isn't. And I love her expression. I also think it's kind of hilarious. My thought is that the artist didn't really know how to draw dogs, so he kind of stuck the dogs, or she stuck the dog's body behind the girl, because dogs are really hard to paint. And but the dog's expression is good. But what I love more than anything is, even though this young girl and her dog are not looking at each other, their emotional connection cannot be denied. So a couple of other things about this room. This is this elephant Jack and I found in India, and we kind of fell in love with it. And it's heavy, and we schlepped it home. I have to say that was a epic event, but we love it very much, and it reminds me of our wonderful travels to India. The thing about the seating arrangement in this room is that what I wanted was for it to be very movable, so that, you know, sometimes I have 2 people over, sometimes I have 20 people over, and I wanted to be able to not have it so you could only sit one way. And the other thing about this room is, when it was done, I wanted it to have more bohemian feel. So this incredible chair from France, which is an antique and is just a museum piece in its beauty. Everyone always wants to touch it. It came in as part of me saying to Elizabeth, we need to sort of funkify the room. And then this chair, which is just, people love sitting in it. It's Pierre's chair, though. Pierre's always sitting in it. It's is like a Victorian antique. It's just crazy. It would sort of be in your wacky uncle's attic kind of thing. And I felt like it really belonged in this room. We didn't really think about color that much as we were doing this room, because we knew it was going to be so eclectic and there was going to be so much color. I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want like navy blue. I didn't want bright red. I didn't want any kind of, I wanted everything to be kind of muted and lived in. And then the jewel tones kind of naturally started to pop, along with this rug really kind of led us, because it's got this beautiful mauve-y olive kind of vibe to it. The fireplace is original to the house, but actually I love the fireplace. It's fantastic. The thing that's more fantastic are these incredible candle holders. There's Sir and Pierre, and here's Audrey, and these were made by my daughter-in-law Eva, and she made them for my most recent birthday, and they are precious to me beyond belief. And I think I could put anything on this mantelpiece, and it's kind of a very important moment in the house, and it felt to me that would be the only place, because she so captured Sir and Pierre and Audrey to the T. And I mean, that's the whole thing about your home, is you get to fill it with all the stuff that has meaning to you. And when she gave them to me, I was just like, Eva, you must have worked so hard on these. And she said, I love you. And it was so precious to me. One thing that's very interesting about this house, to me at least, is that for my entire life, I'm 65, for my entire life, I've always decorated houses in collaboration with my husband. And so every house we did was really a collaborative project. And it was magnificent. And we ended up creating homes that were sort of a reflection of the two of us together. And there was a little bit of Susie, and there was a little bit of Jack, and then there was a little bit of Susie and Jack combined. And this house was a different kind of project for me, because it was all Susie all the time. And I could kind of let the sort of Susie part of me just rip, which is why you see all this art everywhere. Art has been incredibly important to me since I was a little girl, as my mom is an artist. She's a ceramicist. My daughter is an artist, also a ceramicist, and all of my sisters and brothers paint. I don't do that. I can't do that, but I can really, really appreciate it. And so over the years, I have been collecting art. I mean, even when I was in college, I would for $25 buy something at an art fair just to, because I fell in love with paintings like people fall in love with people. I fall in love with paintings that way. And then when I got this house with its unique spaces, I was able to have almost all of my collection around me at the same time. And there's so much variation in my collection. There's old, there's new, there's high, there's low, there's from every different country, every different era, everything you can imagine, different sizes, different feelings. But the only thing that holds them together is my eye. And so for me, it's like the tapestry of my life is all around me with my art. And I wanted the house to feel incredibly livable, like everybody could throw themselves in any place, the dogs could go anywhere, and that it would just feel like this wonderful eclectic kaleidoscope of of Susiness, that it would just feel so comfortable and welcoming and surprising. There's not one neutral in this house, I'll tell you that. But then again, there's not one neutral in me. Right off of the living room is the kitchen and dining room. Again, a very casual feeling, but also, operates really well for dinner parties. What we do when we have a fancy dinner party is we put up a beautiful antique screen that allows the cooking to be going on behind it. But on a typical day, this is what it looks like. It's a wonderful open plan, again, with a lot of versatility, which is sort of the whole house has got a great deal of versatility. Again, my art is all over the place, and things that I've collected over time, like these very, very weird frogs with the pink eyes. My granddaughter loves them and sort of is obsessed with the pink eyes. Some glassware that we got a long time ago. And this is just this very weird 60s resin ball, which Jack and I saw when we were decorating a house probably 20-something years ago. And we just saw it, and you know what we said? That's cool, and so we got it. That was how much thought we gave it, but we just thought it was cool. Other pieces in this room, this is a magnificent mirror, which has come with me from previous homes, but it's kind of next to this 1960s painting that I got on auction, which is kind of a primitive, and I think it's the juxtaposition of the two that kind of turns my crank. I love that artist up there because of the artists in my family. Above that amazing mirror is actually a needlepoint. That is a needlepoint rug, which I got framed. I love its image. I love the playfulness of the zebra, and I think it's kind of cool with the Sputnik chandelier, which did not fall from the ceiling when we were installing it. I mean, this room is a real combination of high and low. This is a rug. Actually, this rug was in our previous home when we lived on Fifth Avenue, and we had to have it cut down. Rather than part with it, I thought, let's cut it down. They were able to, and I was really happy to repurpose it. Now the kitchen, because it's connected to the dining room and because we use these rooms just sort of as a big open space and we flow through them constantly, I'm in all these rooms over and over again. I wanted the color just to pop. I wanted the color to be unique and to be playful. And we looked at a lot of greens, and when we saw this green, I remember saying, that's the green. And it's like a little green lacquer jewel box. And it's a highly functional kitchen. Look, this is New York, we're not in our kitchens all that much because we're eating on the fly or we're going out or doing takeout. But we've had many marvelous meals, and it does everything. And so this table expands. I can open it up when my whole family's here, and we're able to put 14 people in this room, which fits us right now. As more grandchildren come, who knows, I might need a bigger table. I hope so. All the windows that you see and the round windows, I believe are original, and they give the house so much character. And I love this sort of original detailing, this kind of, early 1900s New York feeling, and then putting this super modern chandelier there also. Well, it was a custom rug that we had designed for our house when that Jack and I lived in together, and it was custom for our dining room in that house, and so that's why I was so heartbroken that it didn't fit in here, and I didn't want to. What was I going to do with it? Put it in storage for the rest of my life, and so I sort of broached this subject, and Elizabeth Lauren said, yes, we can absolutely cut it down without you ever noticing. And so we did. And I love it. It makes me happy. It's got this sort of wonderful fall feeling to it. It's kind of fresh. It's got one of the motifs in it is a pomegranate, which is over here. You would never know it unless I told you, but I happen to really, really love pomegranates. So I think that I love that funky part about it. I thought a lot about ripping the kitchen out in this house and putting a new one in, and I thought I don't want to do that much work. And so we took the kitchen that they had and we decided to paint it and put a new countertop on and get different tiles, and it worked. It worked, and it's a good working New York City kitchen. Hello. Hello, hello. So this is, this is one of the reasons I chose this house. It has this incredible backyard, which makes living with 3 dogs in New York City a totally different experience. It's almost unbelievable. And when people see the house, they're like, who has a backyard in New York City? And I can't believe it's me. I love New York because it embodies all my values. It's exciting, it's diverse, it's, there's this great song that goes, I love you, New York, but you're getting me down. I mean, New York is not perfect. New York has just got tons of flaws to it, and yet that's like all humanity. We have this incredible highs and these sort of, dark sides, and New York embodies all of that. But New York is the center of world creativity. And when I'm here, I feel completely, my brain's alive, my body's alive, and there's just, there's so many interesting people. All my friends are here. Many of my friends are here. I have friends are, also in other cities. But I love the energy of New York. It's my speed. I wish the dogs did use this backyard to sunbathe and just hang out, but in fact, they're like all dogs, and all they want to do is be with me. So they, or be with people. And so, when I'm out here, they come out here. But it's not like we wake up in the morning, let the dogs out, and they have like, sort of like dogs on a farm. That's not what happens. But when we're out here, they do love sunbathing, and the yard is pretty straightforward. I mean, I have neighbors who have done extravagant and very exciting things with their yards, and I have yard envy. But I've taken this yard exactly as it is, and enjoyed it because I think it's beautiful. And when I have dinner parties, I string up lights, and when Christmas time comes, we'll put a big tree here. So for my Christmas party, people can look out and see this very big lit up tree back here. But otherwise, I kind of let it be. It kind of has a little of everything. It's got shade. We hang out here. This is sort of our second living room. Sometimes we have team meetings here because my own little team works here in the house with me. And we sit out here and we have conversations. Sometimes we stay and people eat their meals out there at lunchtime. But it kind of operates as just a little secret garden in the middle of New York City. And you can still hear New York, and you definitely can look around and see New York. I mean, New York is all around you. There's skyscrapers all around. I can hear my neighbors all the time, and they probably can hear me, and they probably hear my dogs much more than they would like. And yet that's New York. If it was quiet, it wouldn't be New York, so it's got all those aspects also. It took me a long time to learn how to create a home. It really did. I have to say, it's a lifelong journey. I'm finally in a home where I feel like I got it all right now. I had great help, of course. I get very involved in the design process. I'm in every single detail, as my decorator Elizabeth Lawrence would tell you. But at the same time, I trust experts, especially in terms of scale, because like how big a chair you should have or how tall a lamp you should have, that's a very hard question that I think is better left to experts if you can. But I think it took a long time for me to have the self-confidence to say, this is my home, and I don't need to follow any rules around about what a home has to look like or should look like. I'm a person who just doesn't deal in neutrals, and I had to get to a point in my life where I thought a house can look exactly the way you want it to look. I think tactically speaking, it's very important to start with the floor and the walls, but even more than that, up at 20,000 feet, you need to have a dream of your house before you start decorating your house. And I think that's true about having a dream of a life, which is one aspect of what I teach at NYU. I teach, as I mentioned, this class, Becoming You, where people ask themselves, what is my unedited dream of a life? Is it possible for me to get there? What would it take to get there? And I think with a house, you have to start with a dream of what it's going to make people feel, and really, most importantly, what it's going to make you feel inside. And I wanted a house that made me feel alive and delighted and comfortable and authentic. And that drove me the whole time. Like, does it feel like Susie? And when we were done with the living room, I remember calling Elizabeth back, and we were standing in the living room, and into anybody's eye, the living room, this room we're sitting in, would have looked absolutely perfect. And I said to her, it's perfect, but it's not funky enough. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, we had this vision of it sort of, I wanted the house to feel like Isabella Blow would walk into it and she would say, I feel right at home here. I mean, I was very kind of specific. I wanted this almost kind of London in the 60s feel to it, this sort of bohemian feel to it. And I said, I think it really just needs to be, and then Elizabeth looked at me and she said, more Susie. And I was like, yeah, actually, it's my house and I want people to feel me when they walk into it, and I want to feel myself here. And so we had to zhuzh it up after we finished with it. And actually, I think that's just the never-ending process of owning a home. I mean, this house is technically done, but this summer I was at the antique show in Nantucket and I saw these two 16th century carved angels, and technically there's no room for them in this house, and they are hanging up in this room right now. I just felt like the room needed something wooden, it needed some kind of spiritual feeling to it, and these were so unique and they were so kind of weird and unusual. And in fact, the description of them said unusual pair of carved angels. I was like, there's my word, unusual. And I brought them home with me and hung them up, and I thought, oh yeah, the room needed them. Where I come up with my ideas is an open question, and many people have wondered it, including myself. I do think actually my ideas come to me at the strangest times, like all writers and creators. You know, you have an idea, I have an idea in the subway when I'm going to work. But in this house in particular, I love the backyard for this, and that there are times in the quiet in the backyard, I'm sitting out there with the dogs after dinner, kind of taking in the sounds and feels of New York City, which are all around me, and an idea will come to me. When I'm actually doing the hard work, I have a beautiful office in this house, and I sit there, and that's where the grind occurs. But this room that I'm in right now, the living room, is really our family room. When my children visit or when friends are over, and the dogs and I sit in this room every single day. And when this house was put together with the house next door and made into the house that I currently live in, one of the things that was lost was the formal living room and dining room, which would have been on the second floor. And when I got this house, I thought, do I put that second floor back in? Do I restore it? And then I thought, who needs a formal living room and dining room? It's not how I live. I wanted a space where we just lived all the time, and this room became that. And so in this room, I mean, I love to entertain, and I've had many wonderful gatherings in this room of my fellow NYU professors and friends from all over, all aspects of my life. And we have sat in this room and had so many lively debates and discussions, and so a lot of stuff goes on just in this room. And I think it's actually the ambiance of the room, just all the eclecticness of it invites people just to have their individualism showing and let their ideas just flow freely, because there feels like there's no rules in this room. You know, this is a sort of let it free room, because look what Susie did. She just put it all out there. And I think when people are in this room, they bring their true selves, their true authentic selves, and I kind of dig that about it. I have managed to accumulate a large eclectic collection of women with their dogs from all different eras, all different cultures, some really special paintings and others just very sweet paintings. I had one criteria as I was collecting these over the past 40 years, which was that there be some true emotional connection between the woman and her dog. And I had no place, these paintings used to be scattered all around any house that I lived in. And then when I got this house, we had this magnificent staircase that goes all the way up to the top 4th floor. And I thought, oh my God, maybe we could put them all together. And they belong all together because they all tell a story that should be told together about the variety of women with their dogs. Up until the Industrial Revolution, pretty much in many cultures, not all, but in many cultures, a woman's only chosen relationship was with her dog. And that's actually depicted in some of the paintings I have, where a young woman, often in her teens, is shown painted before she's sort of given away in marriage to somebody else, and she's there, and the look on their face sort of says it all, and she's with her dog. And I have such heart for them, but given how important dogs were in my life. And so many of these are very precious. Some are very modern, and you just sort of see this liveliness and the sort of specialness of it. But others are really profound, and I love the mix of it, and it goes all the way up to the top floor. So I just got this one. It's from a living young artist. It's a woman with her dog on Rodeo Drive. drive. I just love the energy of it. It's very, very playful, but it's juxtaposed with this a more important painting that's French, of a woman with her dog. And again, what I'm loving, even though they both are not looking in the eyes of their dogs, you know that relationship is real. And again, I love the fact that the collection spans time. There's a 200-year age difference between these two paintings, and then this one is from Korea. There's that painting up there with the German Shepherd is from the Ukraine. These are these charming British drawings that I found in a little tiny print store in London last time I was there, because I'm always looking for paintings or pictures of women with their dogs. And I will say that I'm aided and abetted by my friends and family who, when they see a good one, are always saying, Susie, take a look at this. And I have a hard time saying no. This is probably the most important painting in the collection. The artist is unknown. It's from 1720. It's believed to be a Dutch aristocrat, and this is she's probably, if we're lucky, she's 14, and this is her wedding painting, and she's being sent away to live with her new husband, and she's taking her dog with her along with her possessions. And I think a lot about her expression, which they painted her as kind of impassive, but we know that she probably wasn't. But I love her hand on her dog's paw, and I think that it's a very gentle gesture, and it's like my dog is with me. I have a lot of paintings of women working with their dogs. I mean, in history, women often did their work with their dogs as companions. But I got this painting right after I was widowed, and I was on the beach a lot with my dogs, and this painting kind of touched me. And again, you know, you don't see their faces, but you know there's something emotional going on. I love this. This is a painting by an artist, a living artist in California, and I love the head in the lap. Again, there's something going on there of devotion, of utter devotion. This is a painting from the 30s. It's kind of brutalist in its styling, and yet here's a woman who's sunning herself with a friend or a sister at the beach, and the dog is their companion. I love having it near this painting, which is Korean and very stylized, and yet there's a gentleness to it and a humanity to it that can't be denied. This is a painting that was painted for me of somebody who knew that I loved women and their dogs, and he created that painting, which is a copy of another more famous painting, but it was he gave it to me as a gift, a friend. This is another painting that was a wedding portrait. It's Flemish. I love her hair. I think it's just one of the marvelous things is this sort of hairstyle, and she, again, has her hand on her dog's paw as if she's going away. At least the dog is coming with her. I love this. This is a depiction of a Mongolian woman with her dog. I believe it's Chinese in origin. I also occasionally throw in a picture of one of my own dogs. This is Abigail, who was painted before she passed away. She was a fantastic Mastiff. This is a Haitian print, and it's a woman in a boat, and I got it on auction, and I just love how different it is from the other paintings, and I love this dog as a companion to this woman from this spectacular print. I do mix in some photography, even though most of them are paintings, and etchings of all different types. This is a new acquisition. I just love how she's rolled up with her dog, and there was just something that captured my imagination. And this is a British etching that is just shows them in some kind of Orientalist setting. And this dog feels to me to be a German Shepherd. I have two German Shepherds, kind of a German Shepherd fanatic. There's a lot of different reasons that I love dogs. One is I believe that dogs are the gateway drug, if you will, for people understanding the sentience of animals. So a lot of people enter understanding how that animals have an inner life by first their love of dogs. So I love dogs for that, okay, because they allow people to enter into the world of animals and understanding that animals are not here for us, but they are here with us. But then I love, anybody who's had a relationship with a dog understands that a dog knows you in ways and tells you things about yourself that you you don't know yourself. And I think that they return us again and again to our humanity. And finally, I would just say that in a world that's filled with difference and filled with anger and too often and is filled with friction, almost everybody agrees that dogs are good and can talk about their dogs. And so I think dogs are sort of like the one issue that almost no one disagrees on, and you can always find common ground with somebody talking about a dog. All right, well, here's my office. This is where all the work gets done, or not. I mean, obviously, the real work is in the classroom at NYU when I'm teaching, but you have to prepare for your lectures, and you have to think about your lectures and compose them. And so this goes on here in this office that's set up so that I wrote my new book that's coming out in May at this desk, and did a lot of the thinking for it here, a lot of the research for it came through here. I do, of course, have an office at NYU, which I also use. But this office is special. I mean, I think one of the crazy things about this office is this is the original wood. It's just this beautiful antique pine. We couldn't have put it in now if we tried. It's just got a unique feel to it. We changed very, very little about this office. I hung up my art. I hung up actually some of my most favorite paintings in this room because I'm in it so often. I mean, I make my coffee in the morning and I get here and I start working at 6 in the morning and I stay until I get on the subway to go to work. So I surround myself with a lot of objects, and paintings that I really love. One of the paintings I love the most in this room is of this young girl writing, because I am by trade a writer, and I love her looking out there. It's from the 50s, but I love her just sort of in the act of writing, which is what I do. I started out as a reporter at the Miami Herald when I graduated from college in 1981, and I was there and I continued as a writer until I ended up going to business school, and then I merged my two paths to become a business journalist. But I've written several books, and I still consider myself a writer. But even the act of creating a lecture is writing, and I think through writing. And so I will always be writing. I write every single day in some way or another, and if I don't write, I feel like I've not been breathing. And so I need a good place to write, and I need a place that has everything set up, and all the emotional stuff around me has got to be exactly right for me to write. And I love looking at my hilarious sword from Joan of Arc, who I dressed up as Halloween. Joan of Arc is one of my heroes, and I dressed up as her for Halloween one year, and I bought this wooden sword sort of as a joke, but it has her beautiful famous quote on it that says, "I'm not afraid, I was born to do this." And I teach a class that's about figuring out what you should do with your life, or I teach a class that's completely about answering the question, what was I meant to do? What was I born to do? What is my purpose on earth? That's a gigantic question, which we spend our whole lives answering. But when you are in that moment, when you can be like Joan of Arc and say, "I'm not afraid, I was born to do this," it's perfection. And so I hung it right near my desk because so much of my research and writing is about figuring out what systems and methodologies people can use to answer that question fully and completely and with great intent. Well, the question of home is a really interesting one overall. I just got back from 3 days in Texas where I was doing this spectacular wellness weekend with Hoda Kotb and the Today Show. And it was like a weekend that you would give your, anything to go to. It was so spectacular. I was one of the speakers. I loved it. And then it was so funny. Everything about the weekend couldn't have been more perfect. But when I got home, right? It wasn't like I was running from anything because I loved every minute of it. When I got home and I got under the covers, I literally said out loud to the dogs, "Thank God Mommy's home." And there's something about knowing where everything is and being in your place. And in fact, I would say, and I actually teach this, my area of expertise is values formation, how we come to value what we value. And one of the 15 core values that I believe all people have is around place. How much one place is important to us. And some people can live anywhere and they don't have a sensitivity to their surroundings. I'm at the opposite end of that scale. Place is very important to me. My home is important to me because it is this place where you are allowed to be fully yourself and bring your full self to how it feels and how you share yourself with others. And I think also for me, home is a place where family and friends are always welcome and should feel completely welcome. And your relationships not just exist there, but really grow there. And that is how home is reflected to me. Okay, Homeworthy, thank you so much for visiting. See you next time.
Oh, hey, Homeworthy. I'm Jodie Patterson. Welcome to my home in upstate New York. Let me show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Jodie Patterson. I am an LGBT advocate, an author, public speaker, and a mother of 5. So I've been coming upstate for the last 2 decades. And then I went through a divorce and I said, keep upstate. I don't want anything to do with upstate. And that lasted for about a couple of years. And then I realized I actually really love the mountains and the water and the nature. And so I started looking at places that I could see myself living in. And at first I thought I would buy a house, and then I just fell in love with this property. There are blueberry bushes and ponds and wild bears, and so I decided to build on this property. And so I built my house starting about 4 years ago, and I just finished. One of the first things you see when you enter my home is Michael Jackson. I'm a 70s baby. I grew up on the Jackson 5, love Michael Jackson, love music. I'm always playing music. So you've got Michael Jackson, John Coltrane, jazz legend, and Jimi Hendrix. This sort of sets the tone. And then, of course, an abstract gold table, because why not? Bronze vase, and it's always flooded with colorful flowers. A little love note from a child. I have them all over the place. Glasses for days. I think I have 10 pairs in this little nook here. And then can't go anywhere without a customized purse for myself. So I want to welcome you into the family room first. This is where we spend most of our time, and I actually spent most of my money here. The wall of windows was my non-negotiable. I could negotiate on everything else, but this is where I really spent a lot of time and resources, because for me, living sort of indoor-outdoor was the whole point of being up here. So I did this gigantic window display where it's 25 feet high and 12 feet wide, and I'm basically here all day. I watch the sunrise and the sunset. Another thing that I really wanted was a vintage fireplace. So winter, spring, summer, fall, we're lighting a fire, and it's gorgeous. A lot of what I do is collect things along the way, even if I don't have a place for them. So I bought this Italian marble table years ago, before I even had this house, in Brooklyn. I bought these white modern chairs in Zurich, Switzerland, probably 2 decades ago. The throws are IKEA, and then I bought some vintage pillowcases upstate. I really love my couch. So I had this very couch years ago, and it was tattered and worn, but it's such a gorgeous design that I had a friend of mine reupholster some vintage ones for me in leather. And the reason why I chose leather is because I have dogs and kids, and there's the outdoors, so I didn't want it to be too precious, but I love how you can really just sink into each one, and you can lounge, and you can sit up, and it really accommodates the whole family. Dogs included, and it's not precious at all. Love this. And what's also really great about this is that you can move them around. So if we want to face the fireplace, we can. If we want to face each other, we can make it even more cozy. This is one of my favorite things in this house. Okay, doggies, let's go. Let's look around. Orange carpet from a friend. 2 friends gifted it to me as a hand-me-down. The Pantone chairs, I have a ton of them, and I've had them for 22 years. I love them. They're white. You can wipe them down. Again, kid-friendly, dog-friendly, indoor, outdoor-friendly, and I move them around the house. I have some outdoors. I have some indoors. These chairs, I love. I love the framing of them, and they're all a little tattered and worn, and most of my furniture is, and I don't mind it. I've had these probably for 20 years as well, but what I really like about them was I chose an African fabric that I found in Ghana years ago and reupholstered them. My children are Ghanaian. Marble table is small, just enough for dinner or work. Most of the time, though, it's casual here, so we're like moving all around. We're eating outside, we're eating at the kitchen, we're eating here, but I do a lot of my work here. A lot of what I was trying to accomplish in this room was like a feeling of limitless, like you're one with the sky and one with nature, but also feeling really like at home and cozy. So everything has the capability of being like really wide and bright and open. But then if you really want to like snuggle up, you can find a corner here at the table or in the couch or by the fireplace. Like it offers you like the ability to sort of transform as you transform and as the day transforms. So like it's really bright and open, and then as it starts to get into the evening, you actually watch the sunset, and then your like energy goes down with it, and I kind of like that. So the staircase, even though it's not necessarily something that other people focus on, it was something that I really focused on. I wanted to see the spine of the staircase. I wanted to see like the architectural bones of it, and so I didn't want it finished. I didn't want it like capped. I just kept it open and like bulky. Another thing that I'm really into is like durability. I like to buy something and then have it for like 30 years. I've done that with clothing. I've done that with friends. I keep my friends close. And then also with like the design of this house, everything I feel is something that I can live with like forever. So I like to collect art, and I like to make art, and I don't have a lot of money. So a lot of my art is not expensive, but thoughtful, creative, and gems. So I did a gallery wall with a company called Framebridge, and they helped me frame and memorialize like 50 memories. And so I have like my father's pipe, you know, the 70s when like parents smoked in front of their children. I have my father's pipe. I have letters, love letters from my children. I have images of my family. This is actually from someone on Instagram who never met me but loved us as a family and then gifted this piece of art. I thought that was really special. My great-great-great-grandmothers, like, you know, generations and generations of Southern Black folks. Again, 5 generations of women, myself, my sister, my mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. These are things I never want to forget. This is really important to me. I do a lot of work with the Human Rights Campaign, and I'm an LGBT advocate. And like 2 decades ago, I didn't even know what that meant. And in this moment, I was standing in front of probably like 3,000 people speaking about what I now know, which is inclusivity, diversity, love. Those are the deepest things that we have to lean into. And so this really reminds me that we can not know something and then find our way into being really deep in a new world. So we can always shift, we can always change. There's my book cover, some gymnastics medals. I really love this wall because it is a real combination or exploration of my life, which is Black thought, Black love, Black culture, Black literature, Black history, Black family. So when you walk into this house and you see that, you kind of know my whole story. You know, it's like when you walk into my home, you kind of immediately know. This is a house full of family, children, language, communication. Also music, like there's Max Roach and Amir Questlove and Roy Hargrove. They're friends of mine and family members of mine. But this like kind of wall shows you exactly who we are as a family. One thing I didn't mention that I really love is this chandelier. And just as much as the wall of art, this is another art piece that I adore. It was gifted to me by a company called Stray Dogs. And it, as substantial as it looks, it's paper mache. So it's quite light, again, durable. And just, I've had it with me through 4 different homes. And I really love that piece. So wherever I am, you'll always see a slew of books. Many of them are read, many of them are about to be read, passed down from my grandmother, things that I bought. So this is a bench that someone made for me, and it always holds like an array of books. Most of these are art books. Chris O'Feely is one of my favorite artists. Harlem Renaissance. I'm never too far away from books. And I'm also never too far away from like halfway tattered, dilapidated, but still beautiful pieces. I found this one on the street of Brooklyn, like literally being tossed out in the garbage. And I called my cousin and I was like, yo, you gotta help me. Help me take this piece home. And so I've used it, and I have never even repaired it. Like, it's missing doorknobs, it's a little pulled, the paint, but I just really love it so much. The floral aspect, the green, shades of green. And it was in an era where pieces were made with some substance, so I've kept it just the way it is. And then if you look up, again, there's a family tapestry. So family is really like the basis of everything I do. All of my decisions, how I vote, where I live, how I spend my money, it's all about my family. And so that's just a reminder of like how essential it is above all else. One thing I want to point out that is like the quintessential piece in my home, and it speaks to who I am, is this painting. Naked bodies, unabashedly female bodies that are not clothed and not shy. And so my children sometimes question, why do we have naked women? And I say, because the body is beautiful, the body is powerful, and it's gorgeous, you know? So this is something I bought before I even had all the walls painted. I just had it here, propped it up, and I knew that this was going to speak to me and to really like my politics. So here you are, a wall of women. So there was nothing on this land but the land when I first when I first bought it. And so I have built this house from the ground up. Everything is exactly what I wanted. Everything is from my idea. Everything is new in a sense. And then I added in the texture and the heritage and the culture in the design work and in the little pieces. But the building itself is brand new. So much of my time is spent in the kitchen, cooking for my kids, but also cooking for myself. And then sort of decompressing also happens in the kitchen. I don't know about you, but I'm like chopping or washing dishes and processing the day, generating ideas, creative ideas. With that being said, I didn't want a massive kitchen. I didn't want an ornate kitchen or a fragile kitchen. So I did a really simple kitchen that looks out into the room, but it's manageable, because I also don't like to spend a lot of time like prepping and cleaning. So I did a black sandstone island that's like, you know, a waterfall version. And then I did a stainless steel seamless sink countertop, because I don't really have time to always get a cutting board. I'm just kind of like prepping and cutting and making a big mess, and I wanted something stainless steel. You could just wipe it down and keep it moving. Plus I love just an industrial look. I didn't even close the vent or cover the vent. I kept it exposed. I got all of my appliances, Home Depot, on sale. So like, you know, there's some imperfections here, which I love. In fact, you'll probably see like my refrigerator has a little ding in it. That's because it was an open box, like 75% off. These are the things that don't bother me. So I don't know if this is for everyone, but some of the imperfections didn't bother me, and I was willing to save money on that. All my cabinetry is wood, custom black wood. But I'm really proud of this kitchen, and I'm really comfortable in this kitchen. I can work with it. I can move around in it perfectly. And my kids actually can get in here too and like cut and shop, and everything is safe and sound. Another thing is I have windows everywhere. I can look out and see the water. I can look out and see my dogs playing. Sometimes I've seen a couple of deer, some baby bears. Years ago, I bought a bunch of things from Switzerland, and this toucan, I believe, came from Switzerland. I've had it in my offices, I've had it in my kitchens, and this is probably like the 5th house that it's been in. I love her. She's like patinaed metal, and her eyes are blue, and she's just kind of like looking over us, making sure we're cool, we're okay. I also brought in a vintage mirror that has a sort of blur to it, so you're not like distracted by yourself, but you have some depth in this room. I think mirrors in kitchens are really interesting. They give you depth, and they kind of bounce light around. And if you're by yourself in the kitchen, which I am a lot, you also sort of feel at home, because you have another like person to interact with. I can turn around and see myself and smile. So with 5 kids, I'm cooking a lot, but also with me, I'm like trying to be more vegan, trying to be more raw, trying to be someone who cooks all their meals from scratch as opposed to buying things that are pre-made. Also at 54, I need to really protect my health in a way that I never did before. So I'm cooking a lot. We're cutting up, let's see, sweet potatoes, carrots, celery, spinach, anything leafy green, throwing in some chickpeas, cutting up some mushrooms, putting it in coconut milk, and then letting that stew for like an hour, and then serving that over quinoa. So that's something that everyone can make. Everyone can chop something up, throw it in the pot. It's like a one pot deal that I'm into these days. And then maybe some ramen noodles on top of that. Yeah, we're like into easy, fast, and healthy food these days. The weirdest thing is I don't use a dishwasher. I have a dishwasher, but I don't ever use it. I think it's like a waste of time, a waste of water. And so I'm always washing and then putting my things out to dry all the time. I don't even let my kids use the dishwasher. And so I found these stone drying mats on Amazon. They're like $20, but they're pretty. And you can take your dishes and put them there, and then within like a couple of minutes, they're dry. And there's like no mess. Love that. I also don't have a microwave, but I do have an air fryer. So that was like the trade-off. I was like, kids, no microwave. We've never had one. We're never getting it. But I have an air fryer. So that's like quick. You can throw some chickpeas in there and they taste like popcorn. You can throw some chicken breasts in there and it's like chicken fingers really fast. The air fryer and the griddle in the middle, game changers. Cutting boards, home goods, they're brilliant. I like these marble cutting boards as well. I found these at a vintage store. And I'm really into the natural sponges. I get skeeved out by regular sponges, so I get these off of Amazon. And you can pop off these tops and get the reusable ones. And that makes me feel happy. The other thing that I've hacked recently is the dishwashing soap and the sort of surface cleaners. I was using some things that I got on Amazon, but Koala Echo is a brand that I recently found. All natural, plant-based, suds for days, scent amazing, economical, and really, really healthy because my water is from my well. So I'm really living with the land and I don't want to dump in a bunch of chemicals into my land, but also on my dishes and in my body. So Koala Echo is something that I love. You know, I quickly realized when I started to build a house that every turn, every corner was another dollar spent. And so I opted for something really basic. So I have a barn. It's a modern barn with elevated ceilings, double height ceilings, 2 floors, lots of windows. Basically, I spent all my money on a floor to ceiling, 12-foot wide, 20-foot high wall of windows. And then there's scattered windows and skylights throughout, but essentially it's a really simple black barn with a lot of indoor-outdoor living. One of the things I really love is that from almost any place you can get outside. Any corner of this house, you have access to outside. So I built a screened-in porch, substantially big. And oftentimes I just keep the doors wide open and we're flowing in and out. And I positioned the outside porch, the screened-in porch, to look at and to sort of be bookcased by 2 ponds. So I have a pond to the left and a pond to the right, and birds all around. I painted it all black. I tilted the ceilings, and then I have 2 chaise lounges from, I think, Wayfair on sale. African cloth throne, Farty blanket throne, so like a little mix of different cultures. And then if you look behind around this corner, I have a table, and it's Italian, and it is very pristine at one point. It's shellacked calf skin, but it was worn and torn and left outside and shipped, and I don't want to throw it out. So I just throw an African mud cloth over it. And then again, my really beautiful chairs that I also did in African cloth. I don't know, I'm into upcycling, and I'm not sure how I'm going to upcycle this table, but it definitely needs some love. I mean, you can see it's nicked here and there, and it's peeling, but I love it so much that I'll try to figure out how to revive her a bit. You can really hear the birds chirping. My neighbors have roosters. There's a lot of engagement with nature out here. So oftentimes I'm just coming out here to sit. I have books for days to read, but sometimes I'm just sitting and listening. You know, a lot of my time is just quiet out here, and then eating and playing with the dogs. And I built in like sort of gated in backyard for the dogs, because at night it gets really dark. And again, we have bears and all kinds of animals, and so my dogs can be outside fenced in. I can be here on the patio listening, and like hours just go so slowly. It's really incredible out here. My dogs go with me everywhere. This is Patty, short for Patterson, and this is Zora. Zora, say hi. Hi, Zora. And they're with me everywhere. Even when the kids aren't with me, my dogs are with me. And they love it out here just as much. We run to the ponds, we chase rabbits, we've even seen a couple of snakes. So much for everyone out here. It's a little scary sometimes because it is really natural out here. And I'm with the elements and I'm with the animals, so I have to be cautious about that, but also I find it really beautiful. Can you hear the roosters?
One of the best things about this porch
Is it's good for all seasons. So I have a heater for the winter. I have fans for when it gets really hot in the summertime. And we just kind of lounge and like take the day slowly out here. It's really incredible. Let me give you just a little tour of outside. So I built a space for my dogs because my dogs mean a lot to me. And it's just an enclosed backyard, which why would you enclose, you know, the property that you own? But it's for my little dogs, and I love it. So I'm on the porch, and my dogs are in the backyard, and I do feel safe, and I know that they're safe. But you can look this way, and you'll hear the pond to the left, and then down that way is another pond. My trees are enormously tall. Sometimes I see eagles circling, and then I get a little nervous for my dogs, but I love to see like what the land looks like when you just leave it alone. And I haven't landscaped anything. I haven't taken down shrubs. I haven't spent any money on landscaping yet. And I really like this moment where it's raw space, and I'm just kind of getting to know the property. My style has always been very personalized. I have a love for gold. I have a love for woods. And I have a love for sunshine. So I brought all of that into this house. There's a lot of gold of different hues, lots and lots of wood, different tones, and sunshine from every corner of the house. But I also like texture. So I have cork floors in some areas. I have tile from floor to ceiling in some areas. A furnace, a wood burning fireplace that's antique. Big, giant, enormous, like extra wide cement sinks. Everything that I've sort of collected over the years as an idea, I thought I sort of threw them into this house. So my style is very much about the places that I've traveled, the people I know, and the worlds that I've entered, and with a burst of color and enthusiasm. I think you can see that in both the way I decorate my home and in the way I sort of adorn my body. Golds and colors and bursts of color and excitement. I'm going to invite you upstairs to my library and my bedroom. Every place I've ever lived has overflowing amounts of books. I love books as much as I love art, as much as I love travel. And so here's just like some of my books. And really many of them are like the oldest books, like a book that I had in high school or a book that my great-grandmother gifted me. Some of them are signed copies by James Baldwin. So I've displayed them as art, but we also use them. The floors are cork. I love the texture of cork, the way it feels on the foot, but it's also sound absorbing, so that's kind of cool. And antibacterial, which I also love because dogs and stuff. Another one of the chairs in a different material, black velvet. And this painting is one of my favorites. It's a new painting by an old friend named Kilo Quiche. She used to work for me. She's an established musician, artist, and a really good friend. And so she painted that and then gifted it to me. And I love it. It's lots of colors, and I love portraits. This brass light, also really simple, one of my favorite things. This little, I found this at a street fair in Brooklyn on a corner one day in Williamsburg, and I just love the colors. I've reupholstered pillows with some more African fabric. My dogs sit on them, my kids sleep on them. Just makes for a really cozy space. Yeah, I like to make little moments in spaces that like pull you in. So like you're encouraged to sit down with this woman and maybe read a book or just think about people that are different from you or similar to you. I like to kind of create pauses in the moment, in the day. This couch also gives a good reason to pause. Another Brooklyn street find. Found it on the street, took off the legs, did not reupholster it, and like we're often sleeping here, resting. I have no TV in the house, so if my kids are here and I'm here, we might be playing board games, word games. We might be arguing, sleeping, laughing. But the idea that you can gather without electronics, and then your mind kind of goes to the river or the trees and then back to people. This is like how I wanted to spend the next 50 years of my life, where I'm like engaged with people and nature and less with gadgets. And if you look out that way, you can actually see the pond that we swim in. Much of the inspiration when I was thinking about the design of the house was, like, how can we all live together? All different ages, all different like activity levels. How can we all be in one space together and make it work? So it was like the durability, functionality, private spaces, open spaces, high design, because I'm a really visual person. So like everything from the different types of wood that I've used to the cables that I've, put in for the staircase, to the windows. This was all like very intentional. I needed the space to kind of work for all of us. And you'll see a mix of all of us in it. Different ages, different needs, different sensibilities. Skylights for days. Love some sunshine coming in. I've always been obsessed with like French doors, and this is not an authentic French door, but it kind of gives you like quaintness. And so the glass door was something I thought of. Black handles everywhere, because I hate fingerprints, and my kids are like dirty. So black handles everywhere. I recently counted out how many careers I've had, and I think it's like 15. I've done so many things, and they've all been about moments of deep, deep interest. So I was in the music industry, I was in the fashion industry as the director of PR for Zach Posen. I was launched my own beauty company, my own beauty boutique, and my own beauty brand. I've worked in the circus as an acrobat, in publishing, both magazine and book. I mean, I've done so many things. And I think I'm also a nightclub co-owner of a live performance space in New York, Joe's Pub at the Public Theater. Everything that I've done has been about a deep interest, something I wanted to explore or figure out. And over the years, I've sort of combined those career paths into a really deep appreciation for humanity. And so now, as an artist, as a writer, which I consider an artist, an author, I champion for LGBT rights and for equality. And you can see some of that, I think, in my house as well. I mean, I always have an enormous library. I also have remnants all around the house of the fight for equality across the times. So civil rights, women's rights, LGBT rights. You'll see that throughout my house. But I think when you're looking at my career path, it's as diverse and as sorted and as eclectic as my style of design. So now that we're entering the bedroom, I wanted to make it a distinct, separate energy from the open space of the whole house. And really, I'm the only one who's spending much time in here. Everything else is like free reign for the family, but then this is my private space. So I did a sort of like, glass pretty door. And then a little hallway. I decorated the hallway with a runner from Zurich. And on the walls, you'll see myself and my daughter. I have one daughter, 4 boys, 1 daughter. And then this is my bedroom. very feminine. I did a wallpaper from the brand Lick, and it has monkeys and a wild forest and vines, and you can kind of get lost in the wallpaper alone. And I did the wallpaper around the door, and the door just opens up into the sky. So there's no deck, but you still get the whole energy from outside, which is like what I wanted for every room. And then I have 2 black sort of oval leather chairs, a throw from Home Goods, some vintage lighting everywhere, and then this bed. I wanted a sturdy block of wood. I wanted to like be sleeping in the trees, so I made my bed just out of wood, and I made it extra wide because I like to stretch. I actually sleep horizontally now. I heard it's like a fun thing to do when you want to rejigger your brain. So instead of sleeping there, I switch it around and I sleep horizontally. It's just been something I've been doing for about 5 years now. Another rug, which was a hand-me-down from a friend. And this is my desk. I've written books on this. I've come up with ideas for companies. I have brainstormed. This desk I found as a throwaway. I think it was a bank was throwing away a bunch of desks. And it's marble and steel and wood, and it's a ton. And I brought it from every house to house to house. And somehow we got it up here. And so this is my workspace. These are some press clippings of mine. I typically don't do much with my press. I look at them, I smile, and then I like fold them up and tuck them in a drawer. And I've been in a lot of magazines. O Magazine, New York Family, Domino, W, Vogue, Japanese Vogue, dozens and dozens of magazines. But I wanted to put a few of them on the wall just to remind myself. Like this is like no one else is really seeing this except you. But this is just to remind myself that I'm doing something with my time that has had impact on people. So like, you know, like brag to yourself a little bit. That's my brag wall. This is a framed tapestry. This used to be a bedspread, and it was on my bed years ago, and I loved it so much, and it was tattered and worn, and so I minimized it and framed it. Again, bursts of colors, peacocks, and just like optimism. That's basically what I see in this tapestry, optimism. What else can I tell you about this? Skylights, fans, and exposed ventilation. Again, like it's pretty, it's girly, but it's also feminine and womanly, and then also raw and industrial. Pink is one of my favorite colors. Some people think, you don't look like a pink kind of woman. I love pink. I love hot pink. I love dusty pink. And so I found these light covers at IKEA. I don't even know if I put them upright. They're kind of like thrown up there. But again, they sort of set the tone. This is my room. This is my space. It's very feminine. It's very Jodie. My favorite color is pink. So I have pink light covers. Sliding barn door, which was a last minute addition to my bathroom. Bathroom is sort of tightly positioned near the hallway, so I couldn't have a door that swung in and out. So a friend of mine gave me their barn door that they no longer needed, and it was perfect. I knew that I wanted a big, expansive bathroom because in reality, I can have 10 bathrooms in my house and like all the kids are in mine. Like we only need one. And so I thought, okay, I'll just do a really big bathroom with like space that's unused and may never be used. So I have like benches that kind of wrap around the whole bathroom and go down that way. And you're like, my friends are like, what are the benches for? I'm like, I don't know. So we just sit, we can talk, we can twist our hair, we can condition our dreads, clip our nails, do whatever we want to do in here. And oftentimes, although I say this is my space, it becomes the family space. So benches, showers. I don't have one bathtub in this house. People kept telling me, you can't resell the house without bathtubs. I don't care. I don't take baths, don't have time for baths. I love a good shower, and so got the shower. I want to pull some attention to my sinks. Spent a lot of time figuring out what kind of sinks I wanted. I knew I wanted something sturdy, like substantial, and everything I kept going back to was a fortune, like $10,000, $5,000. I didn't have $500 for each sink because I have 3 bathrooms. So what I ended up doing was going on Pinterest, finding the style that I wanted, which was a solid cement sink, and then creating them in, I think, South America. I found someone in South America. They made them for a couple $100. They shipped them, 3 of them, and then I put them on top of a Wayfair vanity. So all in all, it was probably like $300. Vintage mirror hanging above. Brass spout, also found on Pinterest. And my sort of semi-modern toilet from Home Depot on sale. Also found my gold fixtures in the shower on Amazon. And I like them. They're not flimsy. They work really well. I have the rain shower and then also the handheld, and I love them. Some of the things that I found also on Instagram, these towels. You can like shop if you know your style, and if you know what if your eye is attracted to certain things, you can find your attractions on Instagram. And so I found these really sort of like vibrant towel sets on Instagram, and I love them. I love wallpaper. Sometimes it can be really expensive. I chose a sort of more elevated wallpaper in my bedroom, but then I found a really great wallpaper on Amazon, like a stick and peel. Let me show it to you. So, cheetahs, wild cheetahs. It's kind of my thing. It's a stick and peel wallpaper, and it's really rich, decadent, and reminds me a little bit of like a Gucci aesthetic. It also reminds me of one of my favorite authors, Glennon Doyle. I just love it. And it was really easy. You just, peel and stick is something you can do by yourself. And so it takes a little bit of effort, but you totally don't have to hire anyone to do it. And then I just did a metal pipe for hanging and wood, similar to my bookshelves for my clothing. I don't have a lot of stuff up here. I use the same 5 pairs of five t-shirts and 2 pairs of jeans. So this is like exactly what I needed. My boudoir. I have a really full house. I have 5 children, 2 dogs. And so there's a lot of language, a lot of music, a lot of energy. And I think that really is what, for me, feels like a home as opposed to just a house. But sometimes I like a really quiet home too. So oftentimes I come up here by myself without the kids, without all of the distractions of the city and the energy that all of us bring in one space. So for me, there is always a place for history in a home, always a place for language and discussion in a home, always a place for almost conflicting ideas in a home. And then there is always quiet and peace in my home. So I think, there's not one thing, but it's a lot of these sort of like things that actually look like a mini city in my house.
Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting the idyllic home of content creator and author Sarah Laming. Her Instagram account, A Home to Make You Smile, has garnered over 1 million followers thanks to her signature relaxed maximalism style and inviting layered aesthetic. During our tour through the cozy room, she gives us a glimpse into the peaceful, real life behind the viral photos. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Sarah Laming and welcome to my home in London. Here we are, welcome to the hallway, which is the central focus to the house, and it is so unusual for a London home to have a hallway that stretches the length and breadth, and that's one of the things that really first drew us to the house. I also really love the fact that it is almost a room in itself, and so as you walk in it's really welcoming. There's a chair over here. It's a really old and battered chair that came from a French flea market hundreds of years ago, but the dog, Twiglet, usually sleeps in there and keeps guard of the house from there for us. I love vintage furniture and furniture with stories and heritage, things that have soul because they've been passed down through generations. So a lot of the things you see in here, I have bought over our travels or over our time just hunting for pieces of furniture that I love and that absolutely talk to me. So both the rugs that you can see I bought in Morocco, in Fez, sort of about 10 years ago, maybe even more. I got some from a carpet shop, and then really amazingly, we were really lucky when we went there because friends of ours were living there and had a riad. And so they took me to the junk souk, which is outside the city walls, and there was a man in an old tin hut who literally had his rugs hanging over the hut and beating them clean and dry. And he had been to the markets in the Atlas Mountains, and he had the most incredible selection. So I think this rug came from him. This rug came from a carpet shop. This chest is one that I got from Ardingly Antiques Market, which is a very famous antique market in the UK. You have to get up really, really early to get there to get the good buys. But this was one that I found and was actually incredibly cheap. I'd seen them online for a lot more. The lamp here comes from Singapore. We were really lucky and spent 4 years living in Singapore when I was in my 20s, early 30s. And I picked up loads and loads of pieces when we lived there. It's when I really started falling in love with antiques, particularly Asian ones and their character. So that is an old Chinese lamp with a modern Pookie lampshade on top. And the medicine chest that you see here is another object that came back from Singapore with us. It's I spent years saving up for them. They're really famous old Chinese apothecary chests where they stored all their herbs and their medicines. And I saw one and I knew that I absolutely really wanted one, and I had to save and save and save for it. But it's got hundreds of little drawers which they use to put their herbs and things in. So it's actually one of those chests that we never put anything in because we would never be able to find it again. So if you open a drawer, there might be an old receipt, an old coin, you never know, but nothing of any value. My picture here, that was bought online, actually from eBay, I think. I love old vintage art, and when we were decorating the house, I spent hours and hours hunting on eBay for pieces, so that was bought from there. My statues down here, they came back from Singapore with me. They, again, we got engaged when we lived in Singapore, and these two statues are a married couple, and they're a symbol of good luck. So they're a really nice thing that we brought back with us. The mantelpiece is, I guess, the star and the heart of the hall, and the star and the heart of the home. It's only ever, the fire's only ever really lit in there at Christmas, but it's always beautiful when it is with the Christmas tree, and it's a really sort of traditional English feeling when you have Christmas in here. Again, my two Staffordshire dogs picked up at a vintage antiques emporium down on the south coast. I'd wanted one of these for ages. They come in a pair, and they're very, very English, very old-fashioned, but they're getting a new lease of life, and I think they're really cool. This is what my son, who's just been travelling in Southeast Asia, he brought me that back from Vietnam because he knew I'd like it, so that's a little thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when I'm building a home and thinking about the things that I put in it, everything I put in it is chosen with a lot of thought, but also a lot of love. And I always buy or put things in it that are really personal to me or have stories associated with them. Yeah, which have a history, and so when I look at them, they always evoke a memory of a time that they were bought, or a place, or an emotion that I felt at the time. And that's my whole thing behind my Instagram account, of building a home that makes you smile, that's really about you, and then styling it around it so it's not cluttered but is beautiful. So I absolutely love pieces of furniture that come to me with a story to tell. And my friend Anna gave me, who is the person who started my Instagram journey, because she was the one who told me that I should start posting pictures of my house. Anyway, a couple of years ago, after her granny had died, she said to me, I think this table and chair would be perfect for your house. I don't know what to do with them from my granny. Would you like them? And I said, yes, I absolutely would. So pieces of furniture find their way to me, that's what I wanted to say, in stories in so many different ways, so much so that friends' grannies end up giving them to me. So this really beautiful old chair and old table have found their perfect new home. We moved into this house in 2005. We moved from a much more central London location, which I absolutely loved there. We could walk into Soho and the river. But it was so urban, and so we've just moved this few extra miles out to a much more villagey part in London, still very central though. And we get that green space and a garden and much more space in a house than we could otherwise have had. So we fell in love with this house when we moved into it, because it's so unusual for a London home, in that it's 2 floors and it's very wide and it's laterally spaced, whereas often I think in London you go up and up and up and up and you have rooms on different floors. But this house was built in 1905, I want to say, maybe 1908, for the doctor who lived in the village. And I think what we loved about it, like I said, when we came in, was the space that you get with it and the feel. It's also an arts and crafts house, so the craftsmanship and the detail that goes into everything is extraordinary, and that's what we love, and that's what we've tried to change as little as possible. So if you can see just the carving on things like the mantelpieces, or as we come over here, the carving on the divider between the hall and that very sunny morning room that we call it. So yeah, it was incredible detail, incredible workmanship that's gone into it, and we've loved so much. So now I'm going to take you into our kitchen, which is very bright and cheerful. Welcome to the kitchen, which is obviously quite a heart of the home. In this house, it was a really dark space when we first moved in. It was divided into 2 rooms, and it really struggles for light. It faces north and it faces onto a side alleyway, as you can see. So I have tried various colours in here to try and make it into a cheerful and not dark and gloomy space. It's yellow at the moment. It could well change again soon, but at the moment this is good. If you look around the kitchen, behind me you can see my yellow saucepans, again, that I picked up at a vintage flea market. And above there, along the shelf, is actually the wood carvings. I don't know what they call them, but they are for our wedding invitations. So when we got married, my husband was very keen that we didn't have a traditional wedding with kind of white wedding invitations with gold writing and so on. So he had a friend of his make us a really cool book for our wedding. My favourite poem is The Owl and the Pussycat, and so he made us a little book which we sent to our guests, which we can see, which invited them to the wedding, and they got this instead of an invitation. So that was really fun. I guess one of the things that I've learned about myself over 20, 30 years of styling houses is that I kind of never want my house to look like anybody else's. I want it to be a house that's about me, and you can tell that it's me that lives here when you walk in, or my family that lives here, not designed by an interior designer or like a trend that you see. So I tend to try and always look for ways of doing things that I love. And when we did this kitchen, I suddenly decided that I really wanted a concrete worktop. They weren't a thing at the time. Do I love it now? I'm not sure, because it's quite cold and it's quite hard, but I like it. Up here's some of my favourite things, really special because they came from my mum when we cleared out her house after my mum and dad passed away, and I kept some of the things that I really loved. So these are her old coffee jugs and a biscuit jar that I remember from my childhood, and another jug. And round the corner, which we can get to again, is a green velvet chair that my dad spent all of his time sitting in, and I've kept that, and he would watch sport on Sunday afternoons or whatever from this green chair. So I love having that there as the memories for them and those inherited pieces. I've got pigeon lights up there. They're a very modern, funky design by, I think I want to say they're Tom Dixon, but I might double check that. But anyway, they were bought in Liberty's department store along when we did up the house 16 years ago. They're harder to get now, but I really love them. They're cool and they're fun, and they add a bit of quirkiness and character to the room without being too dominating, which I think is something that I'd like to say about decorating my home, is that I like to add a little bit of whimsy or a little bit of quirkiness to a room, but not so that it becomes too much, but just so that it draws your eye a little bit, or you notice something as you're going along. So you just add a bit of interest without making a kind of crazy home. I like doing things like that. I've set the table especially for us today because tablescaping is one of the things that I really love to do, and I think it's actually so easy to create a really beautiful table without too much trouble. I haven't even got a tablecloth on here. I was debating it because sometimes I do, but again, I really like the worn patina and the history and the stories that this table tells with the with its patina. It came back with us again from when we lived in Asia, and it's been with us, and we've eaten around it and had Christmas around it for over 20 years. So it's had a lot of love and a lot of life, and if you look closely you can tell. But I love collecting vintage tableware, as you can see from my shelves, and I've put some on here as well. So I like mixing it in. So this is an old Portuguese Bordelot Panero cabbage leaf bowl that I found, and this one I'm really pleased about because it had the actual salad servers to go with it, which are really charming and lovely. Although I don't actually let anyone eat out of this one or use the servers ever, but they look nice. Sometimes I'll put lettuce in it. And then I've got French wine glasses, the green-stemmed wine glasses. They're so easy to find, and I think they're so jolly on tables. But a little bit of hunting, they're really not expensive, which is the same. So I mix them in with these pink ones as well. Again, old French, I think from the 60s, 70s, with their pink stems. Again, easy to find and not expensive. Some vintage candle holders. Always little pots of flowers along with fresh flowers. These are my bowls that I recently got from Anthropology, who always do lovely tableware. So I really like mixing the old and new, so you're not overdosing on anything. You've just got a mix of things that you love. I think keeping your colours really simple on a table, again, I do. So this one's greens and pinks and then natural colours. With And then just doing a tablescape I really love is having candles, both tea lights and of course in candle tapered in their vintage candle holders. And fruit is so simple to just elevate that table space to that different level. So just lemons that are literally falling out of bowls, and almost you just let them roll onto the table to give that really casual effect. Because I guess if I'm having friends for dinner, I want it to be casual. That's kind of how I feel about my house. It's welcoming, it's casual, it's not formal. I'm relaxed, and I really want you to be relaxed. So an abundance of fruit or blueberries here again that are falling overloaded the pots. And again with the tables having the different heights, so you're going up and down, so your eye is drawn all along. And little vases of flowers, pots of flowers, pineapples. Obviously you always need a pineapple on your table. One other thing on the tablescape while we're here is I was talking about colours and keeping it really simple to say two colours like pink and green with some neutrals. But what I really love doing, and I talk about this a lot in my book, is adding a pop of an accent colour. And in my house, I use a lot of yellow. So here, that's why I've got the lemons. I always think the yellow here and that the jug as well is that pop of an accent colour, just again to add that bit of interest without being too over the top, but just gives it a little bit of something to look at. And then up here is a collection of, a vintage tea services. There's a couple of amalgamated, a colourful one, and then some old black and gold and cream ones that I've picked up over the years. They aren't used very often, but I really love having vintage tea sets on display. I think they work almost as a painting on a wall in a kitchen. They give you a bit of art. Here is a little tiny weeny block that my friend who's an artist paints. She's called Sarah, she'd love it. But yeah, she painted that specially for me for my birthday. So that's something that I love. And my teapot lights, again, they came when we did the house, and I had that whole thing of looking for things that were stylish and cool and a little bit quirky, but not too over the top. And we spotted these teapot lights, and I thought they would be a really fun addition to the dining room table and to a kitchen, because they capture the essence of English tea drinking, which I do a lot of. Let's go now into what we call the library. This is what we call the library. It actually was a corridor in the house before. In fact, it was a really dark downstairs cloakroom and larder that you couldn't see. So we wanted to open it up because we wanted to get the view from the house into the garden, and also because this hall was really dark, so we wanted to let all the light in. So we did get rid of the two tiny little rooms and made this space, and we didn't know what to do with it. And I think anyone who knows me will know that I absolutely love reading. There are books all over this house. There are books all over my social media channels, always left on sofas or by beds, and I'm always reading. So it was really lovely to have a space to put all my books. So first of all, to the bookshelf design. Those were specially made by a wonderful carpenter friend of ours called Jake. He literally made them and then attached them to the wall. So they've got the lovely cross design that you can see here with so it just makes it a little bit more interesting. And then we followed it round the room. We painted it dark because we wanted it to be a really cozy, comforting space, and the light was filling it from the garden so it could get away with it. Again, the ceiling it's all sort of it's all black, so or a really dark blue, so it kind of comforting room. Some of my favourite things in here, bookshelves. I I really love a bookshelf, and one of my favourite things is styling bookshelves. And I think that people would say that traditionally you have your books on rows, maybe done by alphabetically or theme or something, but I think my husband would say that I never have our books like that. So our bookshelves, I think, are just another way to display things that you love. So these ones are colour-coded. Some people don't like that. I really do. And then interspersed, so you get the sort of 3D-ness of them. So you're looking into them, so you get the depth. So hanging a picture on the front of a bookshelf is one of my absolute favourite things to do. Again, adding some interest, making it into a feature. So there's a couple of pictures, putting ornaments, lights, candles. There you go. And like you can just make a really simple reading nook with a bookcase, a chair, and a little table, and you've just made a really cosy corner for reading, adding a couple of lights or a light and some greenery. But let's talk about some of the things here. And I guess two of my absolute favourite things are this wicker elephant from the 1970s UK and my Paddington bear, both of which I absolutely love. The wicker elephant, I had a search going on eBay for about a year till one came up. It did come up. I drove from London to Brighton to pick him up. I got home and Twiglet, our dog, who was a puppy at the time but is now 13, literally the first thing she did was chew his trunk to pieces. So I decided that to be true to myself, I would have to not mind, because every piece of furniture tells a story, and that was Twiglet's story to the wicker elephant. So I've lived with that ever since. But the second piece is my Paddington bear, who again I found at an antiques market so 10, 15 years ago, and I absolutely love him. I started sharing my home in 2019 on social media, and I was talking about this the other day because I was actually 50 when I started it. So I'd been at home, I'd been looking after the children, and I really didn't know what I was going to do, and I knew that I had to do something. And a friend just said, look, you've got a lovely home, why don't you just start posting little snippets of your home on Instagram? And so I did, and I thought I'm just going to commit to this for a month, and I'm going to post every day. And as I did it, I started to get, followers coming in, and I really met people through hashtag challenges at the time. And I really realised that it was something I enjoyed and that people were interested in my house. And so then the pandemic hit, then we were all at home for however long each of us was, and I had loads of time to put more of my house on Instagram, as lots of people did. So it grew from then, and it was then the introduction of Reels and my window in about 2021 that made my account really grow. And that's when I really realised that my Instagram account was becoming not just about a home and little corners of your home and an interior decorating account, but it was actually becoming about a home that made you have feelings and that made you feel calm, and the windows and the seasons changing through the windows along with my furniture was just appealing to people because they had a sense of peace, and those are the messages that I get a lot on my Instagram. So it made me realise how I wanted my home to feel was coming across through my Instagram Reels. So now I have a book coming out in fall. It's called Relaxed Maximalism. I've had the most amazing photographer called Lou Souza, who's worked with me on it, and she has captured this house just absolutely beautifully, and another home that we have by the seaside. And yeah, I guess my book came from my Instagram account and the sense of I really wanted to share how it was that you could put so much of yourself into your home and yet not end up with a cluttered looking mess that was full of stuff, but was a home that was stylish and beautiful and harmonious, and how you could do that through having themes that ran through your home, and how you can mix colours and patterns, and how to bring it all together in a cohesive way so that you can make a home which is of style, not clutter. So this is my study. It's where I spend a lot of time and do my work, and it's where I've just spent the whole of the winter writing my book. I guess that the main feeling that I wanted to create in this room was to echo the outside in the paint colour. So if you look out of the window, it's an incredibly green vista, especially in summer where the fig tree is dominating and the trees to the front. So choosing this green brought that outside in that I talk about and that I love so much, with all the plants that I have around, which we will come on to, and my floral sofas, which you will see one here. But yeah, I do that a lot. It's also, again, colour drenched, so that, I mean, it's such an easy way of decorating, but I think it allows what's in the room to pop, because I paint everything in the same colour. So the window frames, the picture rails, the skirting boards, the fireplace, the back of the door are all in this green. So what I think that does is it makes you draw, you don't lose yourself in the gaps of a white one there where the room seems broken up. Everything is really harmoniously comes together, and then your eye can be drawn to all the things that are in the room. Here we've got old vintage paintings, again, that I've picked up along my journeys from antique fairs, piles of books. Like, I really do just love piles of books. I think they are a really good way of styling rooms. They're just really relaxing to have around. So there's my art propped on piles of books. This round table is an 18th century English table, I believe, which I bought at auction when I was decorating this room, because I really wanted to work at a round table in the middle of the room, which isn't always practical, as you will see, so there is somewhere else too. But I do love sitting at this table and working. If we come to here, you've got my windows, which I rarely have curtains or blinds on, as you'll see. Again, because I just love having the light that comes into the room. And we aren't overlooked here. And one of my many floral sofas, I have 4 at the last count. They're all slightly different. This one, again, is old, vintage, found after many months of searching for the perfect one for this corner. It's quite neutral. And I really do think that floral sofas can be a really neutral thing in a room, as opposed to a sofa which is just a big block of colour. But anyway, I love that. And then my windowsills that you'll see all through my house. I guess I'm really lucky because I've got really wide windowsills. But as opposed to having curtains, I just love filling them with books and plants and the odd lamp. To bring a bit of style and colour to the room. And then on the floor, you've got zebra print rug. I love a bit of zebra print. I think it can be real neutral in a room, and it adds a real character. So yeah, that's my zebra print, which anchors the table in the centre of a room. I think a table on a rug is really helpful. I really do like to have things in my rooms to give that warm feeling. So I like bringing the outside in with flowers, and I like having rugs, and I love having my books around. So I do fill my rooms with things like that. And yet it's really easy to get that feeling, if you do that, to be cluttered. So I really think about how I do it. So one way in which I do it is to keep the colours really limited and really simple. So basically, there are 3 colours in this room. There's green, there's the colours picked out of the sofa, the oranges, and then the neutrals. Now you will see pops of red, but that's sort of as an accent. So I try and create a really harmonious feeling by really limiting the colour palette, and also by just never dumping anything there, but actually styling where I put it down. Again, a cupboard that's filled with little pieces that I find on my way to add to my tablescapes, egg cups and little sorbet ice cream cups, plates for Christmas. Again, that's a really pretty vintage cupboard. The globe that my brother gave me for a birthday. But yeah, I think I do try and bring everything into a room to create a sense of warmth. But then the styling of it is crucial, or you will end up cluttered, and keeping the colours really, really simple. Now I'm going to take you to the downstairs cloakroom. This is the downstairs cloakroom. It's the most decorated room in my house, I guess, because it's got a really floral wallpaper on it. But I really love downstairs cloakrooms for that, because they're rooms that you don't tend to spend a lot of time in. So I think they're rooms where you can really go to town with your decorating. So, and they're often quite small, so you can kind of go a bit crazy in them. So this is a floral wallpaper designed by Porch, a British celebrity and designer now. It's floral, so obviously I was going to love it because it goes with my floral sofas. It's quite dark, but also what it does is it picks out all the other colours in my house. I've basically found in this wallpaper. So it's kind of the central point that everything flows from, even though it's this tiny little room. So you've got the green in the study room, you've got the blues in the hall, you've got pinks, which you find in the morning room, very light pinks, some neutrals, and the only colour that isn't here is the yellow, but never mind. So yeah, that's this room. The ceiling is painted in black, all the woodwork's painted in black. I never leave white woodwork. I just have a thing about it, so yeah. So this is our TV room, sitting room. It's a room that we use in the evening a lot. Hence, again, it's a really dark, welcoming colour. It's the downpipe colour that everybody seemed to paint their house in about 15 years ago, which I did, and I've never changed it. I think I might, but there is just something I still love about this colour. But wait for it, because one day it might turn light blue. Anyway, yep, again, this is a room that is filled with things that have meaning and feelings and are also styled. So again, the rug was picked up on one of those many trips to Morocco. It's a Beni Urain rug designed by the Hill tribes. The paintings, both of these 2 paintings, we bought back from Vietnam. There's another painting upstairs from there. Again, when we lived in Asia, we spent a lot of time in Hanoi, the city. We loved going there, and it is filled with really amazing artists. So we used to spend hours wandering around the old city, looking for not very expensive art at the time, although it's now got really popular, and haggling and spending our time buying some really beautiful pieces of artwork alongside eating amazing Vietnamese food. So yeah, these paintings both came back from Hanoi, and they're mixed in with a lamp, which is a designer lamp in the UK. So I really do like that. I don't just have old vintage pieces in my home. I really like the mixing of old and new, high street, high-end department store. I think you can get a really lovely balance of all of it. So that light is a nice but expensive lamp. Another floral sofa that you can see, which is from Anthropology. I worked with them on this, so that was nice. Again, my windows are decorated. I've got an African drum here that we use as a table. It makes me realise, as I'm chatting this through, of how much history is in my home and how much I do pick things up and I do buy things as I am going along. So yet again, this table came back with us from when we lived abroad in Singapore. I guess what I love having in sitting rooms is lots and lots of tiny little coffee tables. So if you can see, there's one down there, which is just, they're my favourite sort of tables. You can just plop them anywhere. They're kind of spare tables, occasional tables, and little round ones just popped in front of a sofa with a vase of flowers on, or it's somewhere to put a cup for a cup of tea, or the TV remote control. They just are really easy to find and really easy to pop down anywhere. I love little tables with lamps on. You can see that one over there. Again, that's a vintage lamp, a bit too big for the table. I like the fact it's almost too big for it. But the juxtaposition and just taking up the whole space. I like having loads and loads of lamps in a room. I just don't think you can have too many. And I really love not using the overhead lights too much. So here, our room is just lit by little table lamps, the overhead lamps, and I really try to layer all the lights on coffee tables, windowsills, floor lamps. So your eye, particularly on our very long English winter evenings, the room is just lit by pockets of beautiful warm lights. I really love these patterned lampshades. So I've got this one here and that one there. I have loads of different patterns, and I literally treat my table lamps a bit like fashion objects. So come changing the seasons or changing in the weather, I've got different lampshades that will match all the different lampstands that I've got, and they're like different hats, and I pop them on. So I might put a yellow one on there if the sun's out, or a green one at a different time of day. They're just really simple ways to elevate it. And also I really love fabric lampshades because I think they give, they really add to a pattern. If you're using patterns in a room, they're really easy to intersperse, and also they are just beautiful in themselves. The patterns are, even when the light isn't on, I always think that a little pattern lampshade looks lovely. Actually, as I'm just leaving this room, and I'm going to take you to the next room, and I'm having to weave my way out past the big cushion, what's it called, floor cushion, that we put our feet on at night, and we put trays on, which serves at everything. But one thing I love about rooms, what I'm trying to say, is that I love the fact that you have to weave your way through them, like find little corridors, as it makes them really interesting rooms to be in. So here I am as I weave my way through the sitting room to come out and take you to the next room. So this is what we call our morning room, which is quite a grand name, but that's how it was described in the floor plan and the details when we bought the house. So it's stayed ever since, which actually is quite bizarre because it doesn't get the sun in the morning, but it gets the sun at this time of day. So actually maybe it should be called the late afternoon or evening room. Yeah, this is our everybody's favourite room in the house, I think. It is where everything about my styling, I think, comes together. We've got the famous Instagram window here, which is always peeping out onto the seasons and which gives us blossom in spring, golden autumnal colours in autumn, and this carpet of green in summer. In winter, it rarely gives us snow, but occasionally it will. So that's the window that everyone loves from my Instagram account with my floral sofa in front of it. I remember buying this floral sofa a really, really long time ago, 15 years ago, and I was absolutely determined to have one. I think I'd seen one somewhere and I had to really hunt for it, and then I hunted and hunted for the fabric, which is a Sanderson fabric, and which I then had the sofa upholstered in it. And it is such a loved piece of furniture, and it really has become iconic to my house. There is always a blanket, there's always a book, there's usually a dog, but it's too hot for her at the moment, but hopefully she'll come later. There's always someone in front of the window doing something. Again, having a floral sofa, some people I think would worry that it might dominate the room and be hard to mix patterns with, but I find it the opposite. I think that as long as you've got your neutral colours in it, you can put anything on it, mixing it with lampshades and the other flowers. We use this room all day, every day, and we use it to relax in, as opposed to mostly we don't watch TV in it. Mostly we are sitting on the sofa chatting as a family or with somebody else, or someone is reading, or we are playing backgammon on it. We play cards around this table. We sometimes eat at it. It's a real hub of the house, and I think because it's so connected to the hallway, you never feel like you are on your own in the house. You're always connected to the rest of the house, and I think that's just really lucky to have here. And of course, you know, we literally do sit on this sofa and we really do watch the seasons roll by. You know, that is a highlight of everybody's day. I love having a big coffee table in front of a sofa. This one came back with us from Singapore, surprisingly enough. It's an Indonesian coffee table. I think that they give a real focus to a room. They give you something to walk around. They give you an idea and a way of styling your little objects or things that you love on them. So I always begin styling my coffee table with a couple of piles of books. There's usually a little light and then some trinkets on coffee tables. Frequently, I think if you are styling a coffee table, you want things in threes and with a colour that matches. So that's almost too big, but 3 on that book, or you've got a 3 next to each other. You want to vary the heights, so you've got tall things and lower things. But basically, if you put things on books, you'll make you'll give the coffee table a sense of solidness. There won't be things floating around in odd places. There's always a cup. There's normally a cup of tea in it. And the rugs, if you look at the rugs in here, I've got a bit of animal print which acts as a neutral, but it's layered on top of a very rusticy, creamy rug with bits of brown in it. And again, I really love layering rugs to add a little bit of texture. And if you get your colours right, so basically these 2 rugs use the same colours, they're just slightly different sizes. And therefore you can add a bit of interest and texture by just popping one on top of the other. There's a really big floral painting on the wall here. That came from an online poster company, and if I'm looking for pieces of art like that, I'll tend to go for the biggest size possible, so that it's the painting itself or the poster that makes the impact. I'm not a fan of gallery walls, dare I say, or lots of little prints all arranged together. I really, really like statement pieces of art. And I think if you're struggling to find a way of putting a gallery wall together, instead just looking online and finding the biggest piece that you can seems to me to solve all those problems. And actually, I think it makes a real statement. So yeah, I really love this, and I love the way it echoes the colours in the rooms. It's, yeah, a really good piece. Again, mixing that modern and brand new with all the vintage art that I have around. I like to include both. all of these tips that I've been talking about, like styling a coffee table, mixing patterns, introducing floral sofas, buying vintage, incorporating different eras and styles of furniture, putting high street and vintage together, are all, including the themes, like the little themes, like bringing nature into your house, a personal touch, a sense of history. Those things are all included in my book, so which is coming out in fall. So if you want to see more, then there is that too. So here is a little secret to this house that I'm about to show you, because next to my window onto the garden is a secret door. Come with me and see. Underneath the shade of the fig tree and amongst the agapanthus is this little secret old Cambodian rain drum with two rickety old chairs, and it's where we sit and have our, don't know, early evening drink or catch some sun in the morning. But it's the most beautiful shaded spot, and it is really at its best at this time of year because the agapanthus are out. It's like our secret garden in the heart of London. So welcome to the landing of our house, which again, for London, particularly in a big city, is just incredible to have such a big space. And again, it's one of those features of the arts and crafts movement when the house was built. But yeah, this little section's like another room in itself. And I really wanted to make a focal point against this wall. So it's really simply done. There's just a rug, an antique bench, and the painting above it. The painting we bought again a long time ago when we were in Hanoi in Vietnam, and she is again one of those pieces that always makes me smile. I just love her. She's so calm, she's so serene, and I love the colours. And yeah, she is a classic piece of a home to make you smile, finding those pieces that have got a story and a soul and a meaning to them that you love. Yeah, again, I guess the pillows on there are, again, an example of pattern mixing, and I think they'd probably be quite a good way to explain how pattern mixing can work, which is, I think if you've got a colour theme, if you can really mix lots of different patterns if you have a thread of colour that goes through each of them. So these cushions are all linked by threads of colour. So you can see in here the pink comes through, the pink on there, the pink around the butterfly, there's some pink in the parrot, pink round, pinky purple round here, and onto the purple of that cushion. So all of those cushions, no matter that their patterns are so different, there's leopard print mixed in, there's stripes, and let me come to the black and white stripe, which obviously doesn't have any colour in it, but black and white is really good to have as a neutral in a pattern mix. You can put it in anything, and it breaks up the whole array of patterns, so it doesn't get too much. But yeah, pattern mixing, if you're wanting to do it, keeping that thread of colour going through, again, you can see there's a lot of yellow in them, and the yellow reflected in the painting. And that enables you to just keep the harmony when you are mixing your patterns. So here we are in the bedroom, which is a really beautiful light-filled room. And it's painted in a old Farrow and Ball archive colour, which is got a great name. It's called Potted Shrimp, and it really does change colour with the light, and it can be very shrimp-like in the darker lights. One of the things I love most about this room is the really flimsy, whimsical linen mixed curtains that I have that blow in the breeze, and on Instagram lots of people ask after them. And they are truly magical. They really do let in light and breeze, but they don't actually work as curtains. Let's be clear on that. So behind them, I always have a blackout blind so that actually does the job of a curtain, and the linen blend mix curtains just look pretty and float in the wind. I've got an antique mirror here which came from France. I bought it. There's a really lovely little company near to us who do summer shows and autumn shows called Fabulous Vintage Finds, and they go to France every year and pick up loads of stuff. So the mirror and in fact the little desk both came from there at one of their summer fairs or artist open houses, as did the little bench, stool. And yeah, again, the floral theme continues onto my bed cover and my bedding with little cushions, again, mixing and matching patterns, the stripes with the florals, or turning over my cushions and adding a bit of yellow to with a flower. Again, the windowsills filled with books and flowers and pots of things that are growing. I just have such an obsession with having, bringing that outside in and really creating a calm and natural feeling room. And the curtain is blowing. Yeah, again, patterned lampshades, a little chair. The mirror is absolutely beautiful, but try doing your makeup in it, and all the time you realise that buying really old vintage patterned things comes at a cost, because you can't actually see yourself. So I have to go to my daughter's room to do anything like that, but I wouldn't swap it for the world. When I'm thinking about decorating a bedroom, it's really interesting, because I think some people decorate bedrooms for nighttime. They go, you want a really dark, cocooning room because when you're going into it, you're sleeping, so you are winding down for sleep. Other people might decorate it for daytime, but I kind of look at a bedroom and think, I'm going to decorate this bedroom for a Sunday morning lie-in, because that is my favourite time of the day. And even if I only get that once a week or sometimes never, just that feeling that it gives me. So it's got a beautiful warm pink on the walls to give it that sense of warmth and harmony, and yet it's still light and bright to give you the sense of it's daytime, you're not cocooned. So I guess I think, yeah, when I'm designing my bedrooms, I always think about that vibe of when I really love being in it. And I think being with my book on a Sunday, having a lie-in with a cup of coffee and a croissant, and the breeze blowing and the curtain blowing is the way that I really love my bedrooms to feel. Home to me is a place which is about feelings. A house is the structure that's made of bricks and woodwork. It's a place to be decorated. But a home is somewhere that has that sense of je ne sais quoi, that vibe, that feeling where you're sitting in a room and it feels like it's a part of you, because it's got your stories, your history, your connections in it, the things that you've chosen. And it might be that you walk into a room and you know exactly how the light falls in that room at that particular moment in the day, and you think that's where you're going to have your cup of tea. Or the patterns that you've chosen are the patterns that you've put together over time, and with the sense of history that comes with it. That's a home. It's all about the person who's created it and the people that are in it and the feeling that that creates.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.